pretending to be Jews, but they are not. They are really the scum and the dirt of the society. And I'll prove this to you in this little short introduction, which I'm going to use in with some number of the vlogs about what is going to happen to them because of their constant lies and disobeying God Almighty and fighting against His creation, killing the innocent children and fracturing their bones, taking their flesh off with incendiary bombs. And United States, how it is complicit in these war crimes and this genocide. Now, in order to put a halt to it, this is for the first time in history that they are going to be humiliated again. You'll show you some clippings of. These are really not the regular armies of the country. They are really the resistance bodies of Hezbollah, Hamas, from which the thing started. Then the Houthis. Then you have the Syrians. Then are in peace with no one. Neither with Jordan nor with Egypt. They never kept their promise, even in last 1445 years ago, when in Khabar, the reason all their elders were killed, it was the decision of their own elders that since they never keep their promise, since they lied to Prophet Muhammad, since they never abide by they had made a pact with the Muslims of Medina that they will not let the Quraysh come and attack, and they will not join them. But in fact they did, and this is what happened to them. And so they have been lying ever since they came into existence. So there's a history of thousands and thousands of years. They live on lies, they eat lies, they vomit lies, they defecate lies, lies and lies. But that's never ever going to change into truth. The truth is that they are going to be eliminated. They are going to have a humiliating defeat, and the destruction and is the self-destruction. It's nobody else is destroying them. In fact, it's the Netanyahu, and it's this stubborn nature of that man, and that started to with one of his mentors who said that settlements will just remove these Palestinians from this land, and then we will have the whole land to us. So agreed, and he idealized that man, and the Shamir, he said, I'll follow you in your footsteps, and till his death he will keep on doing that. The good people die early, but this man is over 78 and or close to 80s. This man fails to just leave this world naturally, and there is no one, just like the Rabin, who was a peace lover and who was a signatory in the Oslo Accord, who was shot within the 24 hours. There is no single relative of the hostages, or there is not single sane person in the whole of this Zionist state who can get rid of this menace. Even America is helpless, Europe is helpless, United Nations is helpless, International Criminal Court is being threatened. So you can imagine that one man destroying the peace of the whole world. The sacrificing one man will not be a lot of sacrifice when you compare the life of those innocent children and women and the suffering he has caused, the starvation, and the way he stopped the humanitarian aid and destroyed all the health structure, infrastructure, the sewerage, water, power supply, oil, flour, bakeries, mosques, all the colleges, the universities, the museums. So this is all intentional, and there is much more which the eye can see, and then you can see that who is going to be responsible for the destruction. So it's a destruction, self-destruction, I repeat, self-destruction, and the man responsible is just like Adolf Hitler is the Bibi Netanyahu, his wife, his son, and I think his war cabinet. The people who are either as racist and as extreme as he is, or they are worse than much more racist and extremist than him.
One young Israeli army reservist agreed to speak about scores of detainees at Sidi Taman. He says are kept in cages or pens, constantly shackled and blindfolded, many for weeks on end. We've hidden his identity and voice to shield him from prosecution.
We were told they are not allowed to move and must sit upright. They're not allowed to talk or peek under their blindfolds.
And what happened if they did do that? What kind of punishments were meted out?
We were allowed to pick out problematic people and punish them, having them stand with their hands above their heads for an unlimited time. If they didn't keep their hands up, we could zip tie them to the fence.
The Israeli military says detainees are handcuffed based on their risk level and health status. But the account tallies with photographic evidence obtained by CNN of Palestinian detainees inside Sedi Tamen.
The view that I've heard expressed is that, how do you think Israeli hostages are treated by Hamas?
This sentiment was voiced in the facility, but I think that if Hamas is so abominable, which I agree with, then why use Hamas as a bar? It's a descent into dehumanization.
You can take them out and hit them maybe 4 or 5 times with a club. It's not done in the face, so you don't see blood. The detainees lie belly down, being hit and kicked, people screaming and dogs barking at them. It's terrifying. Some detainees are taken away and beaten really hard, so bones and teeth are broken.
So you saw people who were subject to these beatings, who had their bones broken and who had their teeth broken?
Yes, it's a practice which commanders know about. They want intelligence, but they also want revenge and punishment for what happened on October 7th.
The Israeli military hasn't approved CNN's requests for access to Sedi Taman. But at the gates of the facility, we challenged the Israeli guards.
How many Palestinians are in there right now? We don't know. Do you know if they're being handcuffed? Are they being blindfolded? No.
This is a facility.
As we leave, masked soldiers approach.
Hello, how are you? I'm filming this place.
It's a property
Of the army.
Oh,
So
who are you guys from CNN?
Give me please.
They tried to take our cameras.
Give me please now. Give me please now.
Hang on, what is it that you want? My camera or my card?
Well, we're driving now to meet one Israeli with personal experience of the Sedi Taman facility. It's experience that he says has left him shocked at the condition and the medical treatment of Palestinian detainees there.
Hello.
He told us he treated Palestinian detainees with gunshot wounds fresh from the war zone in Gaza, but was appalled at the lack of equipment and expertise.
The problem is, Gazans who are brought in are labeled as terrorists, and it is very popular opinion over here that terrorists deserve to die, so they do not deserve the same medical care as everyone else.
Satellite imagery obtained by CNN shows how the Sedi Taman facility was expanded after the October 7th attacks, with detention facilities and makeshift medical bays being added after public hospitals in Israel refused to treat injured Gazan suspects. Eyewitness accounts describe a field hospital with 15 to 20 patients, virtually naked and blindfolded, with hands and feet shackled to their beds and wearing diapers. One eyewitness told CNN painful procedures were carried out by underqualified medics. Treatment the medical worker told us amounts to punishment.
In my view, it's the idea of total vulnerability. If you imagine being unable to move, being unable to see what's going on, that's something that borders, if not crosses, into psychological torture.
After Israel's rejection of the ceasefire deal Hamas signed up to, questions remain about the role CIA Director Bill Burns played in all this. Burns was present at both Cairo and Doha, where the ceasefire deal was being hammered out. One of my sources told me it's not as if Burns was in Cairo to gamble at the casinos or to swim at the beach at Doha. An Egyptian official and a Western diplomat interviewed by Associated Press claimed Burns approved the first version of the document and encouraged Hamas to sign it, with the full knowledge of the Israeli side. There were 2 small changes after that, but they were not seen as deal breakers. So how is it the moment Israel rejected the deal, America said it was just a counter-proposal from Hamas? We know there are splits in Israel's war cabinet, but this scenario raises the possibility of splits within the US administration too, or at the very least a weakness. Either way, Hamas don't regard this as their problem. They are confident they can survive anything Israel will now throw at them at Rafah, and confident in their ability to deny the 2 main war aims, to get the hostages back and to decapitate Hamas. But why are they so confident? We're repeatedly being told that the Israeli army has smashed the bulk of Hamas's forces and that only 4 battalions remain intact in Rafah. I put this to a source who knows Hamas's military situation well. He laughed at the idea that Hamas had his back to the wall in Rafah. He pointed out that everywhere Israeli forces retreat, Hamas fighters very soon emerge. He also said that one reason for the latest Israeli offer to withdraw from the Netzarim corridor, the road built from east to west to cut all movement between north and south, was because of the vulnerability of their forces guarding the road from attack. He said Hamas had got as many recruits as it could wish for, once all factions in Gaza realized that this was an existential war against all Palestinians. And it has as much high explosive as it needs. This is delivered by Israel itself in the quantity of unexploded bombs and missiles. So much tonnage, in fact, that the UN experts calculate it would take 14 years to demine all the unexploded ordnance. There were 2 challenges to Hamas's hold over Gaza. The first came in January, when Israel tried to strike a deal with individual tribal leaders to run their areas without approval or oversight from Gaza City. This was clearly rejected in a public statement by the Supreme Authority for Palestinian Tribes. The second attempt to unseat Hamas was more serious. It was devised by Jordan, Egypt and the Saudis and enacted by Majed Faraj, the ever-pliant head of PA's intelligence apparatus. Dozens of PA Secret Service operatives infiltrated into Gaza disguised as security for the convoys from the Egyptian border. Some of this group got as far north as the Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza City and allegedly provided intelligence to the Israeli forces, which led to the second storming of that hospital. Most of the group stayed in Rafah, where they tried to set up headquarters in the building of the Palestinian Red Crescent. The plot was uncovered when famished residents rushed the trucks and the PA men drew their weapons. Hamas arrested all of them and got their officers to confess. 7 months of continuous bombardment leaves Hamas confident it can weather the storm it is about to face in Rafah. Destruction on a scale meted out to large parts of Gaza City and Khan Yunis is a 2-edged sword, they think. It has exposed Israel before 2 of the world's top international courts and in international opinion in an unprecedented way. Biden and Netanyahu are feeling the heat, not them. There is no avoiding the fact that the forthcoming battle for Rafah will be one of the most bloody of the wars, with a series of massacres for which responsibility will lie in international law with Israel. The human price will be high, not least amongst the proportion of refugees who are living in houses and can't move from tents. But after he has occupied Rafah, Netanyahu will have an even bigger headache than he has now. How to declare
यूनिवर्सल टेलीविजन को सब्सक्राइब करना ना भूलें, उसके बाद बेल बटन पे क्लिक करें और अपने कमेंट्स के सेक्शन में अपने कीमती जो ख्यालात का इजहार ज़रूर